Hi everyone, I'm making this video in response to a lot of the feedback I've received on my commission video, mostly regarding my going labor rate. And sorry, I keep looking down, I have my cat down here, have to pay attention to her. But a lot of people thought it was either too low or too high. And firstly, to address that, I'd like to say that the reason my going labor rate was $13 an hour is because I haven't worked at minimum wage in 6 years or so. I was being paid $8.50 to work at Toys R Us as a sales associate, and I haven't really updated my labor rate since about 2012, when the minimum wage in my area was much lower. And now that I work in San Francisco, minimum wage in the area is $13 an hour. So I've decided to up my labor rates to account for that to about $20 an hour. The skilled labor rate is usually higher than minimum wage to account for the years it took me to hone the skill that I'm using to create commissions, and also the tools and additional resources I need to get stuff done. This is all stuff I didn't really cover in the first video because it was already so long that I didn't want people to look at the timestamp and be like, ain't no one got time for that. Now again, I have two categories of people who seem displeased with me in the first video. The first is people who still thought that my labor rate was too high and I was still charging too much. And the second is... that was my cat. And then the second category is people who thought I was charging too little. From the first group, I heard a lot of, well, where I live, minimum wage is this, so why should I pay you this much money when I have to work this many hours to make that much money? Well, unfortunately, commissions are business between individuals and individuals. I am not an industry professional. I am offering my services for a given price, and it's based on what I need to make in order to survive. I can't afford to pay out of pocket to create costumes for people I don't know, because unfortunately cosplay is a luxury, and as much as I wish everyone had the money to afford the nice things they wanted, I can't afford to make that happen on my own dime. I felt that my original video explained why things cost what they do, and taking all of that into respect, no matter how much you're paid or how little you are compared to me, I still can't afford to work out of pocket for you. Then I've been hearing two different things in the category of people who think I'm charging too little. Firstly, the assumption seems to be that I make most of my income by commissions. I should have clarified, I don't make the majority of my income based on commissions. I have a day job in San Francisco. I only take a couple of commissions a year. I don't openly advertise taking commissions, so when I do take commissions, it's because either a friend or a stranger has reached out to me on either my Etsy shop or social media of some kind and asked me to do something for them. I get a lot of inquiries from strangers actually, and then most of them back out, which is totally fine because I don't usually have time to work on commissions because of my actual job. And also I like to have that extra time to make projects for myself as opposed to for strangers. So fortunately, starving because I'm not getting enough money from commissions is not a concern to me. The other thing that bugs me a little about the more serious language, things like if you're sick, you'll be out on the street, it's based on the misconception that if I raise my prices, I will magically continue getting the same number of commission requests as I was before, and people will still be willing to go for that exact rate. I made the entire first video in response to people who did not think... Hi, baby. I made the entire first video in response to people who were already thinking that I was charging too much. I think it should be implied that I was already having trouble getting people to agree to reasonable prices, so that's something to keep in mind. But also, if I'm having trouble getting people to pay me $13 an hour, am I really going to have the same number of people willing to pay $20 to $25 an hour? Realistically, what's going to happen is I'm going to get fewer requests, so even if I'm making more money off of each project, I'm still going to be making just as much money overall, probably. And this should also be kept in mind for people who do make the majority of their income from commissions, because many of them crank their prices down so that they'll get enough commission requests in order to be able to eat. If you need to lower your prices to $10 to $15 or even cheaper than that, which I doubt people would honestly, if you need to lower them that much in order to get enough requests to survive while you're between jobs, or if this is your day job, that's fine. Those people shouldn't be criticized. They know what they're doing. Just let people do their thing. If someone is homeless, they will know. They can figure things out on their own. We're all adults here. Shit's going down upstairs. The second group under people who think I charge too much is people who say that I'm part of the problem, and that because people like me charge less for commissions, it makes the people who want commissions take the people who charge more money less seriously because they're like, oh, well, I can get this cheaper option, or they just assume that people are overcharging. I take a little bit of issue with that, if only because it's not individually my fault. It's not any one person's fault that this happens, while I agree that there's some logic here and it's a vicious cycle. But it's just a little finger pointy to me, and I don't really like that language because, like I said before, a lot of the people who charge less money for commissions do it because they're not garnering enough demand to make the money that they need to survive. And I wouldn't go out on my way to shame them if they're doing what they need to make money, you know? So even though I completely see that logic, I don't really like the implication that it's singularly my fault or the fault of individuals like me for creating that mindset. The whole point of the commission video was to explain the commission process and costs to people who weren't willing to pay enough, which should indicate to the people who don't think that I'm charging enough that this is already a problem. Even if there are people who are willing to pay that much and can pay that much, the demand still won't be there. I'm not worried about that, again, because I don't rely on commissions to make my income, but you should keep in mind that there are many people who do, especially if they're having employment issues and they're between jobs and this is what they're doing to get by. I hope that provides some clarity about the context of how much I charge and what I plan to do in the future. But I guess my main message here is to live and let live. Sewists can decide for themselves what they need to charge in order to meet that balance of supply and demand. People are able to make that call for themselves, so please just don't make assumptions and let people figure things out on their own. On one hand, sewists charge a lot of money because they deserve to be compensated fairly for their time, and if you can't afford that, at the risk of sounding harsh, it might be best to just move on and find a cheaper option, maybe in your area where wages are similar to your own, or look into online options which might not be custom made like commissions, but they are there. But on the other hand, people who charge less for commissions are usually charging that much because they need to garner enough demand to make enough money. Both are completely fair, and it's up to each individual what they need to do, so please be respectful and don't make assumptions about what people should or should not be doing, because everyone's doing what they need to look out for themselves. I hope this makes sense to everyone. If you have any other questions about commissions, you're welcome to ask me. I'm happy to be a resource for you. Thank you so much for giving my video a watch, and to many of you guys for sharing it. And thank you for watching this one too, but I hope you have a lovely week. Bye!